morning, everybody. This is really exciting Navigate. We've got some really fun product developments we're going to talk about. We've got some exciting things to move us forward. You just heard Matt talk about SailPoint Atlas, and we want to build on that. But I thought first maybe I'd start with a little bit of a historical analogy. I did not know that Matt was going to come out here and drop some Goldilocks and the Three Bears analogies, though, so I'm going to have to try to top that one. But I thought I'd keep it kind of in keeping with this concept of Atlas. Atlas, as you probably know, was a Greek titan, like a titan. It was a big deal. So I thought let's stick with that concept of the Greek, ancient Greek history, and start with this image of the hoplite. You all know this image of the Greek hoplite. You've seen it in TVs and movies. You might know the hoplite started to become kind of gaining popularity in ancient Greece among the city-states back in like 700 BC. These hoplites, they were really ferocious warriors. They had their shields and their pikes and their swords, you know, and they were trained from an early age to be the most ferocious warriors. So they were very successful in battle. You also, of course, know about the phalanx. The phalanx is when they'd all group together with their spears out, with their shields up. And look, the phalanx is one of the reasons, along with the hoplite, that we know today about the Greek city-states like Sparta and Athens and Corinth and Thebes. They really dominated for hundreds and hundreds of years. But I will say by the 4th century BC, the hoplite and the phalanx were starting to lose it a little bit. This became evident at the Battle of Leuctra. This was in 371 BC. If you're taking notes, make sure to get those dates exactly right. This was Sparta versus Thebes. And what happened in this case is Thebes had a weakness in the front of their line. They sort of fell back. The Spartans rushed right forward into that line. And suddenly the Thebans realized that they could just attack those hoplites from the side. And it sounds really obvious to us today, but remember, this is an era where for hundreds of years, the two armies had just rushed at each other and smashed in the middle and made the strongest army win. But they realized there might be something to this strategy here. You see, the problem was that although the hoplites and their phalanxes were incredibly strong, they were ferocious, they lacked discipline, and they lacked coordination. They didn't work together as a unit, so they didn't know what each of the others were doing. Philip II of Macedon, or Macedonia as you might hear it referred to, he saw this and he saw an opportunity. Philip was an excellent strategist. He was also a really good technologist as well. He popularized the sarissa pike. This was a pike that was up to 20 feet long. And they would take this huge pike and they would use it to stab right into the middle of an opposing phalanx so they could sort of cause damage without getting touched themselves. While he didn't invent the catapult, he popularized its use. He realized there was a use for this ranged artillery where they could fire from afar before the enemy could even get them in range. And he used some of this where it all kind of came to a head in the Battle of Chaeronea. This was in 338 BC. And this was a real turning point for the Greek Empire. This is when Philip II and his backwater Macedonian army, they were not a powerful city-state at all, they routed a combined army of Sparta and Thebes together. They were working together. They absolutely crushed them. And it wasn't because of that sarissa pike. It wasn't because of the catapults. It was because Philip introduced something called combined arms tactics. This is actually studied in military schools still today. It was the first time in history that somebody had coordinated their various units across a battlefield. And Philip's realization was that he could use the strength of each unit to its maximum effectiveness. He could look and say, I want to lead with the heavy infantry, and then I want the light infantry to come around from the side. Then we're going to lob over with the catapult. We'll lob over some some heavy lead shot into the back of the opposing army, and then we'll use our cavalry to sweep around the sides. His real weapon wasn't new technology. It was unification. This led him to do really cool things like the hammer and the anvil tactic as it's known today. And this is when his infantry would sort of rush headlong and oppose the enemy force. And then the cavalry on horseback would ride around behind. They would hammer, crush the enemy there between the hammer and the anvil. This led to unprecedented success. Philip was instrumental in consolidating the Greek city-states throughout the time that he ruled. And really, this is when we think of the Greek Empire today, that sort of united group of city-states. It's because of Philip II of Macedon. He teed things up pretty well for his son, too. His son continued his strategies. You probably know him even better. His son was Alexander the Great. But the fact is, I think we need to remember Philip. I think he's got some lessons that we can teach us about how unification could be a force multiplier. We can apply those lessons to identity security today. You see, we have a lot of really cool units. Philip had his units in the battlefield. We have a lot of cool technology in identity security today, almost to the point where it's overwhelming. I just jotted down here, a handful of ones that you hear about a lot now. If you're out researching the market, you're talking to, a Forrester, a Gartner, a Carpenter Cole. These are the themes that are coming up a lot. Privilege, identity, we've had that one for quite some time. Identity threat detection is a hot new emerging space. Cloud infrastructure entitlement management, or CIEM, is a way that you can manage your cloud identities. A lot of new spaces. And every one of these, there are like 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 vendors associated with each of these areas. I think it's a lot like Greece in 400 BC. We have a lot of great capability out there, but it's not working together. And it's not as efficient as it could be. And if you've got these technologies in your enterprise, I'm absolutely sure that you're spending time trying to get them to talk to each other. You're trying to get all the data into a common data plane so that you can draw insights from it. And as you do that, you're using your best people. You're drawing on expensive contract resources. You're spending a lot of time and money to get this all working together. You want to automate it. If you think about it, our industry is kind of the opposite of where you would want it to be. If you could get in a time machine and you could go back in time 20 years, or go back to the ancient Greek Empire, and think ahead to how you'd want to design identity security, you unfortunately wouldn't do it the way we've got it set up today. Why do we have separate products that handle cloud identities? We have a whole space called CIEM, Cloud Infrastructure Entitlement Management, but then we use separate systems to manage identities that are on-premise. We have separate systems completely for privilege and non-privilege. And we think that shouldn't be that way. There should be a spectrum of privilege. And any identity at any point in time might need to be privileged, but you shouldn't have to have completely separate systems for it. We think of employee versus non-employee. We acquired a company. We have a third-party non-employee risk management capability now because we thought we should unify non-employee and workforce together, and it's been working really great. And finally, human and machine. We think completely separate vendors to manage our human identities versus machine identities. Doesn't make sense. It's not the way we would do it. We think there's a better way. And this gets back to SailPoint Atlas that Matt talked about. We see that an intelligent, extensible, and unified system can give you so much greater efficiency. This is SailPoint Atlas. Matt already hit on a few of the components. I'm going to drill into those 6 core capabilities here in a few minutes. But I want to emphasize that SailPoint Atlas is not just some ephemeral marketing thing that we came up with. This is the platform that we build on. This is the platform our customers build on. You're going to hear in a few minutes, we're going to announce a new product today that's built completely on Atlas. And we are able with that product to go 7 months from when we started coding to today when we're introducing the product because we were able to gain the efficiencies of building it on the Atlas platform. It's a real thing. So it makes us more efficient. Our customers are building on it too. It's been incredible. We have a session later today. We're going to talk about what customers are building on the platform. It's been cool to see. I think that's the definition of a platform, right? When we're using it, customers are using it, partners are using it, we're building new things. It's incredibly powerful. Matt also touched on the policy in the middle of that, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But Matt said it well. The numbers are astronomical. You can't do it with hands on keyboard. We think it's policy-driven and backed by AI. That's what's going to make the difference. It's the only way we can manage the complexity in today's organization. So one set of workflows for automation, policies for control, unified connectivity fabric that ties it all together, unified APIs, and a unified data plane to make sense of it all. So this is what SailPoint Atlas does. There's some real business benefits. We can talk a lot about things like efficiency gains, streamlined processes, and improved decision-making and investment protection. But I think real-life examples are more interesting. I think of a couple cool examples I've just seen in the last few weeks. One of them is at a financial services company. An identity administrator was trying to work with the DevOps team to explain effective access of their cloud identities. And if you've done anything to try to manage cloud identities, you know exactly what I mean. The effective access is tricky. You might have an AWS or an Azure or a GCP account that gives access to certain services in the cloud, but you don't necessarily know then what's behind that. What's the effective real access? Well, that was one problem. The other is they were trying to interface that with their identity governance system, with SailPoint, to understand who owned these accounts. Who are the people behind these? And they found that these accounts are being used, of course, by developers to log in interactively, but a lot by build scripts and deployment scripts. And so it was this nightmare. And they bought a third-party CIEM product that did a good job, but the problem is it wasn't unified. And so they were spending literally months to try to get the third-party CIEM tool to talk into SailPoint. They decided to give our KIM product a try. And they said what was a months-long exercise suddenly became a week. Everything was unified. It was tied together. They knew every single one of those IDs, who was responsible for it, what the effective access was, and they used that then to right-size the identities and the access that they put in their build scripts. So huge win there because of unification. Another example I love that I experienced firsthand was just a few weeks ago. I was talking to a manufacturing customer of ours. They're on the Identity Security Cloud. And they had a list. It was like 8 or 10 things they had that they wanted us to do. And they were all kind of, I'd say, bespoke requirements, a bit one-off. And whenever we can at SailPoint, if there's a great idea, we want to get that thing into the product. But we often find there are unique business requirements. You're all different. No one's got the same requirements. And for those unique requirements, let's find if there's a better way we can do it. So they had this list of 8 or 10 things. And they were, like I said, one-off. It was, hey, we need an emergency access form if somebody's not yet terminated in the HR system, but we need to take them out. Or every time somebody moves departments, I want to force a recertification. Can y'all build that in the product? That sort of thing. And we were able to go through in every one of those use cases. We had one of our great sales engineers there. We pulled up SailPoint workflows. We started to show them how they could build their own use cases into the product in a way that was upgrade-proof. They didn't have to worry about testing these things when they went to the next version. So we talk about future-proofing and investment protections, exactly that. So those are 2 examples where just I've seen in the last few weeks, our customers are gaining real business benefits from the Atlas platform. So that's Atlas. I want to talk a little about where we're going in the future, and then we'll bring it back to what we're delivering today. So if I look over the next, I call it kind of 18 to 24 months, we have some really, really cool stuff. I think this is an ambitious and aggressive roadmap, but we're confident we can deliver it. So I think about new applications, and today, not to steal my own thunder, but we'll be announcing SailPoint Data Access Security here in just a minute. It's our unstructured data governance product that runs on the Identity Security Cloud. We have a really cool thing coming with AI app onboarding. I smile when I talk about it because it's going to solve so many issues you have. This actually came out of an innovation workshop that we did internally at SailPoint. We had a competition, like a Shark Tank style competition. One of the winners here had an innovative way to see what applications you're using, search across our vast repository, 15 plus years of connectors, find the right connector, identify the mappings automatically, and you can just fill in a few fields, click submit, and that connector will be deployed. So you can start to govern all those applications. So it's going to really revolutionize how we do application onboarding. Structured data access governance refers to evolution of our DAS product we're going to talk about today. It's taking it from just pure unstructured data into semi-structured and structured data so that we can work on your data that's in Snowflake or AWS Redshift or a Google BigQuery, for example. We think about identity types, probably 2 of our biggest sort of advanced announcements. And by the way, you might have noticed at SailPoint, we're pretty conservative. We don't get up here and say, hey, we're delivering this new thing. It's coming, December of 2026. Stay tuned. But we want to lean forward a little bit more and let you know this stuff is going to be delivered next year. The first one is around privileged access governance. And look, we don't say PAM. We're not trying to be a direct competitor. We love our partner, CyberArk. They're the best in the industry when it comes to PAM. We have a partnership with BeyondTrust. We're not trying to compete in that space. But we do see, as I mentioned earlier, that privilege is a spectrum. And what we're starting to observe among all of you, our customers, is that there are times when a normal workforce account governed in SailPoint needs to just pop up for a little while and be privileged. And so we think we have a very integrated, very unified approach to privileged access management that's going to be very compelling. Service account management was also one of the winners of our innovation workshop that I mentioned earlier. We hear consistently from our customers that this is a big issue. Is in some cases you have many times more service accounts, machine accounts, than you do human accounts. And so we've got a great way at SailPoint. We're going to take all those service accounts back from various systems, make sure we can logically group them into resource groups, we can assign them to owners, and completely manage the lifecycle for service accounts as well. And then when I think of the platform, we have a few cool things. We're announcing Atlas today. We're looking to the future around identity threat detection and response. We think we've got a unique lens that we can shine on identity threat detection. And the Atlas application platform is a way that you can run third-party code and render it in the Identity Security Cloud. So sort of think like a plug-in infrastructure. Some of our IQ customers have enjoyed this for a few years. We want to bring it to the cloud. So we're really excited to think about opening up the platform. Today you can build sort of adjacent apps with our APIs, workflows, and so on, but you'll be able to build apps right into the ISC. And then policy-driven security and the SailPoint risk score, they kind of work hand to hand. I thought it was so great to hear Simon Gooch out here earlier talking about policy and how important that is. Oh, look, we see a future. We could talk about this a long time, but we see a future where rather than certifying hundreds of discrete entitlements that someone should have access to, you're getting AI recommendations, but you're also signing off on a policy. You know, you're saying, yes, a tier 1 financial analyst should get access to these systems when they're coming from a laptop with a clean security posture and their individual risk rating is low and it's between the hours of 8 and 5, right? You should be able to set that policy and then trust that the entitlements are going to flow separately from there. We think it's way more efficient. We think it's way more secure. So we're excited about the roadmap. We think the smarter way forward is not sort of that Greece in 400 BC approach of let's buy a bunch of stuff and let's figure out if we can wire it together. Matt talked about convergence, and when we talk about convergence as a negative thing, that's, you know, he really hit the nail on the head. It's not about just sticking a whole bunch of stuff together and hoping it works. It's about having a unified platform where the stuff talks together. You can draw unified insights. You can draw alerts from it. You can automate it. You can drive workflow around it. We think it's going to help your business be more agile, be more efficient, and be way more secure. So you see where we're headed? It's an exciting vision, I think, anyway. And we want to share some of the capability we're delivering today. So that's where we're going. How are we getting there? And what are we actually delivering today? Before I jump into it, I do want to thank our product management, our engineering teams, our product management teams, our technical program managers. A lot of people at SailPoint have been working really hard over the last year to deliver these things, and we just appreciate their hard work so much. So we're going to talk about these in 3 areas: platform extensibility, data and apps, and AI and machine learning. We'll start with platform. We've been talking about it a lot, but I said I wanted to visit those 6 core capabilities that we think about in Atlas. So the first is extensibility. In some ways, you might think this is the last. This is saying anything that we do in SailPoint Identity Security Cloud, you should be able to do through an API. And so we've made everything that we do very accessible. The same APIs that we use to build the product are the same APIs that you can build on. So everything here is programmatically accessible. That goes hand in hand with connectivity. I mentioned earlier, we've connected over 20,000 different systems. It's a very long tail of one-off bespoke systems, as you can imagine. But if you've got a system out there, we can connect to it. We continue to evolve that platform. The data model is really important. This has been a big focus over the last couple of years for SailPoint, is getting all of our data into one place. So regardless what part of our identity security cloud you're using, which product you're using, you can know it talks to one back end. That drives things like personalized insights and reporting, right? So you can you create exactly the report you want, the way you want it, deliver it when you want it, and we use it as fuel for our AI engine. So when we have all that data in one place, we can deliver amazing insights for you. That's that AI piece of it. And the event-driven orchestration, think of that as tying it all together. It's saying all these things are accessible through our workflows and through our forms that we're going to tell you a little bit more about today. So let me talk about some of those evolutions of the platform, some of the new things we're introducing. The first one of them is custom forms. Custom forms, I tell you, this one sounds fairly boring, but it's the most boring feature you're absolutely going to love because it gives you a lot of flexibility in workflows. Forms is a way that you can take input as part of any workflow, and our customers are starting to use it in really awesome ways. There's some more basic ways, like maybe when somebody joins an organization, you want to take information about the kind of like PC and desktop setup they want, for example. Or you might say, hey, we were going to have an onboarding form. We just need to take a little bit more information about what your cost center is. But we're seeing customers use it in incredible ways. And I mentioned on the last slide that everything there is accessible via API. So we have one customer, for example, they have an access request workflow for a very sensitive application, and they use one of our forms to take additional information. Business justification, why do you need it? Make sure we have their department right. We pick up an additional cost center. We ask them to verify they've read the terms of confidentiality. All of that then gets fed via API into our AI bot. So the AI bot isn't just something that we give to you as a product. It's something you can hit via API. So you feed all that information into AI. AI then renders a verdict as to whether this user should have access to the app or not. And what our customer has done is if the user is deemed low risk and there's no question about the level of access, they'll go auto provision. If they're not sure, they'll actually then bundle that back into a form and they'll send it to someone on their security team for additional manual review. Like an amazing way they've taken this very complex access request process and they've automated so much of it using the brand new custom forms and workflow. We're also introducing MySailPoint. MySailPoint's really powerful. Think of it, simply think of it as a dashboard. It's more customization here. But where we're going in MySailPoint is a way to create custom widgets that surface anything in our data backplane that you want to surface up to your identity administrators. And where we're going is to be able to create personalized and custom landing pages for end users as well. We're doing a lot of things at SailPoint that are going to need more end user attention. When we talk about our data access security product, for example, we may alert an end user if they've left sensitive documentation in an open internet-facing bucket, for example. And so those are the types of insights we can surface right into my SailPoint. Looks fantastic. It's a big upgrade on the old UI. And I should have mentioned earlier, but all these things we're talking about, they're delivered today. If you're an Identity Security Cloud customer, you don't need to start testing for an upgrade. You don't need to ensure backward compatibility. These things are all rolling out to every one of our Identity Security Cloud customers this week. So real excited about custom forms in my SailPoint. As we shift gears over here into data and applications, pretty cool. We're going to talk about how we're extending what we do into unstructured data, and I'm thrilled to announce the availability now of SailPoint Data Access Security. This is a really exciting one for us, and I love how well Simon teed it up here 30 minutes ago when he said, look, it's not just about giving access to applications. We need to think about access to data. That's what really matters. He talks a lot about like an identity fabric and then a data fabric. So SailPoint Data Access Security does that. It discovers and classifies data in your organization, but then it does what I don't think anyone else in the market can do. It takes what you've set up, what we know about the right kind of access. What should every identity in the organization be able to access? What's their role? What are their peers accessing? What is their access history? And we can reflect that right up against the sensitive data in your environment. So Data Access Security does that. I think we'd love to show it to you here, so I'm going to ask Hanan Levy to come up to the stage. Hanan is our lead product manager for Data Access Security. Hanan, come on out.
Hey, Grady.
Welcome, man. So Hanan, tell us a little bit about Data Access Security.
All right. 1 second. We're all about security here.
This is the best time to fat finger your password in front of 1,200 people.
Right. Oh, it's only 1,200? That's fine. All right. Anyway, when we created Data Access Security, we did it with the goal of really empowering organizations to discover, govern, and secure their unstructured data. And to do that through a unified and single pane of glass through their identity platform. This is why when you log into your My SailPoint homepage, you immediately get insights into your identity security and your data security posture really through a single pane of glass. We use the same sources as you've already defined for your Identity Security Cloud. There's no infrastructure to deploy, and if you're a FAM customer, you can really migrate to DAS real easy. So for example, if you are in your identity security team and you're in a project to lock down access to your most critical data assets, you immediately get kind of the list of the top 10 accounts with the most critical data access, how much access they have, and what kind of data they can see. And these are the kind of identities that you want to make sure that you monitor really closely because we've identified them as high risk. And so this is kind of where we start.
So Hanan, I think the hardest part is figuring out where to get started in all this. So how does Data Access Security sort of work with the Identity Security Cloud, and how does it influence day-to-day IGA, role management, that sort of thing?
Right, so that's an excellent question. So first of all, our a new governance dashboard really gives you an overview of your security posture, where your data is well governed versus where there are areas where, for example, your data lacks data owners and is left ungoverned, or for example, when your data is overexposed. Here, for example, our analytics engine kind of found that there is an unusual amount of identities that have access to this data, given its sensitivity level. It also gives you a sense of how exposed you are, right? And having those insights really help you find those areas and correct those areas when you have entitlements that may be shared to everybody, employees and non-employees alike, and really expose your organization. Definitely not the way you want to kind of secure your critical data.
Right. So speaking of critical data, what if you just want to see what types of data is being shared out there and who has access to it?
That's a great question, because if you switch over deeper into DAS and get kind of a more data-centric view, you can see that you can immediately see exactly what type of data is out there, how it's distributed across the organization, how is it accessed, and based on all of these criteria.
Maybe talk a little bit about that discovery. How does discovery happen?
So DAS, data classification engine, really lets you identify where your critical data is, whether it's your intellectual property or your production secret, wherever it may be, using our content analytics engine that uses a variety of dynamic policies, looks for both content and metadata. And of course, if you have your data already classified by any other means, we can leverage that as well.
So I'm always struck by how this awareness of data can really shape governance decisions, like whether access should be granted to somebody, how you build role models, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the beauty about this thing is that, you know, this is not just siloed within identity or within data access security, right? Just as Identity Security Cloud can detect any change to your identities, it can also detect any change to the data access. And so, for example, you can really easily search for those entitlements that actually kind of have access to all different types of data, or have a high impact score when it comes to, you know, in relation to their access to unstructured data. And if you look here, you can dig deeper kind of to get additional insights and get more information about the entitlements data access, what type of data they have access to, what kind of policies apply to them. Of course, this is just one view. This is a view from the access item object, right? And you can also view that from the identity object, for example. And these are the type of identities that, and entitlements, of course, that you want to make sure that you govern really tightly, that you have really secured, and you probably want to certify them much more frequently, you know. And this is exactly why all of this information can be leveraged through certifications as well. And if you look here, you see that you immediately get additional information for your reviewers, right? The impact score, the policies, the data categories, as well as, you know, kind of more informative view, because you want to make sure that you give your managers and your reviewer the appropriate information and context so that they can make more informed governance decisions.
I just want to echo what we're seeing, because I don't want to bury the lead. What we see here, it's back to that theme of unification. You are in the Identity Security Cloud, we'd formerly call Identity Now. You are using Identity Now Search. You're using Identity Now certifications. And we have all that data presented right alongside. So just yesterday, you might have seen entitlements for your Oracle ERP or your SAP system. Now you're seeing access entitlements for all your unstructured data right alongside it.
That's right.
I love it. What applications does it work for now?
All right, so we started with Office 365, your Teams, OneDrive, SharePoint Online, because these are by far the most common kind of cloud applications. But we're following up really quickly with additional cloud endpoints such Box, Dropbox, AWS, Google Drive, right? And of course also on-premises endpoints, so, you know, Windows servers, Linuxes, NAS devices, and the likes.
That's great. What can everyone look forward to? What's on the roadmap?
So in the next couple of quarters, we're going to add additional governance capabilities such as, you know, data access certification, data access request, ownership election, and of course, we're going to add activity monitoring that which, you know, will allow us to also introduce identifying unused access and unused data to kind of reduce the exposure risk. Longer term, though, imagine this. An AI-driven data access model, right? This means that, you know, our AI engine can help you set up your data access correctly and alert you on any issues, right? It's like having a security team watching over your data access 24/7. And, you know, continuing with the theme of this keynote, it's all completely unified.
Awesome. Love it. Hanan, thank you so much. We're really excited about DAS.
Yeah.
It's exciting to see Hanan showing off DAS here. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, on a really serious note, DAS was built exclusively by our team in Tel Aviv. We have 30 folks in Tel Aviv. This is to be a big week of celebration. We had a bunch of them who were going to join us over here. And as you can imagine, things have changed. So they're all with their families right now. Several members of the team have actually been called up to active duty military service, and it causes me to reflect. I mean, how many of us could go 1 week from being a SaaS developer to the next week, you know, active military service defending your country? So I don't know if any of them are watching the live stream. I kind of hope not. I certainly understand if they're not, but if they are, I just want them to know that we're all thinking of them. We're praying for the safety of them and their families, and I think I can speak for everybody in this room that we hope that peace will be restored soon. So great work by our Tel Aviv team. All right, well, look, we're in the home stretch. I want to talk about some of the developments here around artificial intelligence and machine learning. This is such a fun area. We have such a vibrant data science team that's just working all kinds of new and exciting things. We enhance our AI capabilities on about a quarterly basis. We're introducing new functionality. This might be the one that I'm most excited about, though, for a long time, because it's going to change so much in the next few years. This is Activity Insights. What this is pulling in real-time information about how entitlements are being used. So we start out about a dozen apps we support, kind of G Suite, Duo. We get a lot of information about access through that, Workday, Salesforce. And what we do is we see how are those entitlements being used. And as you can imagine, this opens up some big, big opportunities. We're starting this week with that information and activity insights. So you can see when you go back to look at access history, you can not only see when access was added or removed, but how is that access being used? Is this person actually using that? Over the next couple of quarters, boy, it's going to be exciting because we're going to start to pull that into certifications. Certifications will have access data by the end of the year. And that means when you go to do a certification, you'll get to see, is this entitlement being used? Why should I approve something that hasn't been used in 6 months or a year? So it's really going to illuminate that. And then it gets very cool in recommendations and access modeling. You know, we recommend that you don't give this access because none of the peers in the group have ever used it. Or when it comes to access modeling, we'll recommend that you even take entitlements out of a role because those aspects, those entitlements aren't getting used. So we think Activity Insights really moves us from admin time. You know, we've always been, hey, set up the access when somebody starts, change the access when someone moves to a new role, take away the access when they leave. But we don't do that because it's optimal. It's just because we haven't had the telemetry to make minute-to-minute decisions, and now we will. So this is going to be a big thing. You can check it out today. If you hook up some of your applications to it, you can start to see the actual usage and activity insights. And then next is our Access Intelligence Center. We actually announced Access Intelligence Center last year. We spent the year gathering feedback, and it's essentially a relaunch for a couple reasons. One, we've completely replaced both the back end and the front end for Access Intelligence Center. And if you're not familiar with it, this is our completely customizable reporting engine. It's a new BI layer on top of all that data. You heard me mention a few times this consolidated data layer. It's a new BI layer on that. We've also turned on authoring, so you can go create your own reports. You might want to create a report for an auditor, or you might want to create a report for your executives that shows something like cycle time to grant access. You can save those reports, you can run them on a scheduled basis. So we're giving you access to everything that we see on the back end. Another AI advancement that's really cool is LLM-generated entitlement descriptions. I'm going to give you a quick preview of this. We're delivering this in production by the end of the year, but it's so cool I wanted you to see it today because it addresses a big pain point. In fact, when I've talked to some customers about this, more often than not, they say, well, can you go back to that because we need to talk about it. Who knows what an entitlement description is? Yeah, most of you. And your end users do too. They care a lot about this because when we create an entitlement, usually the name of the entitlement is auto-generated or pulled from the source system. We ask everyone, though, we ask the administrator to create an entitlement description. It's a human-readable form. And it's really important when someone goes to do a recertification, they're going to look at that access, and they need to understand what it is that they're approving. The problem is we found across all SailPoint customers, 64% of entitlements have no description whatsoever. Nobody adds them. So you end up with something like this. Here's an example entitlement. These are real examples. SFDC underscore CPQ underscore AA underscore list 05. You're showing that to your poor end users when they go to do a certification. They don't know what to make of that. The most typical human entered description is blank. People aren't putting in descriptions. And when people do put in a description, we get so much garbage in there. We see things like this is an actual one. Salesforce license, advanced admin stuff, makes sales easier. Get it. I mean, this is not serving our users well. But this is what an LLM is just perfectly and uniquely suited for. So what we do is we actually spend a lot of time prompt engineering. We told the LLM, what is a good entitlement? What does it look like? What aspects or characteristics does it have? Then we fed it the entitlement name, and it exceeded our expectations. We did not think it would be this good. But what you would get in this real-life example here, for that very cryptic name I gave you, I'll read it because it's so good. This grants full advanced administration access to configure and administer Salesforce configure, price, and quote, CPQ. The entitlement allows building quotes, proposals, contracts, and product catalogs within the CPQ application. Like, that's what we should be putting in front of our end users when they're going to do a certification. So it's so good. We're very excited about it. What's also cool is we use AWS Bedrock for this. AWS Bedrock is Amazon's LLM service where they host various foundation models. We happen to use Anthropic's Claude model to do this particular one, but they offer dozens of different FMs or foundation models that you can experiment with based on your needs. The reason you all should care about that, though, is you need to know we're not sending data out to ChatGPT. The stuff's not being hoovered up into some AI engine. We can say with certainty this stays within your identity security cloud tenant. Nobody else sees it, and we can rely on the security of AWS that we've depended on for a long time. So it's secure, it's done right, it's compliant, and it's really going to make things a lot easier for our end users. So you'll see this by the end of the year. So we're excited about that one. Yeah, that's worth a round of applause, right? And then finally, last but certainly not least, we continue to invest in IdentityQ 8.4. Look, we talk a lot about the cloud stuff, and part of the reason for that is it moves so quick. You know, we push new code changes to production, sometimes on the scale of 80, 90 pushes a week. We have several big releases during the year. And it's really where things are moving so fast with AI and LLMs and new BI engines and that sort of thing. So we tend to talk about that a lot. But we continue to invest in IdentityIQ. As most of you know, we have an annual release cycle, and we just released IdentityIQ 8.4. So proud of the team for delivering this. IdentityIQ is really just laser focused on what are the biggest customer needs. And so we're proud of the fact that one of these features we shipped was the #1 upvoted feature for IdentityIQ on our ideas portal. The point is we're listening to customers and we're responding. So a few of the big things here, there's a lot to talk about. There is a breakout session on this, of course, but access history now delivered natively. It used to be sort of this bolt-on that we ran. Access history is right in IdentityIQ now. Data extract, which makes it really easy to pull data out. I just actually heard someone asking for this yesterday. And I said, oh, it's in 8.4 to pull it out into your own data lake. The ability to create common access. It's a feature we've had in the cloud. In our AI, we've put that now into IdentityIQ. And then a lot of changes to how we handle governance over objects. And that means you can do things like a read-only debug page, for example. If you have a contractor, you want to come in and see how things are set up, but you don't want them to monkey with other settings. So some of the top features, that was the top upvoted feature in the ideas portal, so definitely check out the session to learn more about that. So look, we started talking about the power of unification. I started out with this analogy from ancient Greece and hoplite and how that strategy had to evolve, and how Philip II of Macedon used unification to get the most out of his troops. We think it's so applicable today. I hope you can see how what we're delivering is unified, and how that unification helps your business be more efficient, be more agile, and be more secure. I hope you're as excited about the roadmap as we are. Like I said, we think it's ambitious. We're going to deliver some awesome things for y'all. Hope you enjoy the sessions over the next day and a half to hear a little bit more about the things that we've announced today. We just thank you so much for being part of this journey. Thanks.